My parents gave me an eviction notice on my birthday while Dad said, "This is from all of us." So I read it carefully, nodded politely, and stopped the $12,000 monthly mortgage payment, keeping them from foreclosure. Hey family, your support keeps these stories alive. Subscribe, say hi in the comments, and tell us your city or country. Let's get into today's story. I was 33 years old when my father handed me an envelope across the dining table where I'd eaten breakfast as a child. "Happy birthday, Lauren," he said, his voice flat and rehearsed. "This is from all of us." My mother stood behind him with her arms crossed, and my two younger siblings, Justin and Rebecca, lurked in the doorway with expressions I couldn't quite read. Satisfaction? Relief? I'd driven 3 hours to celebrate with them, expecting cake, maybe some awkward small talk about my accounting job downtown. Instead, I got legal paperwork. The envelope was thick, official. My hands didn't shake as I opened it. I'd learned not to show weakness around my family years ago. 30-day eviction notice. The words blurred together as my heart rate spiked. Eviction. I looked up at Dad. "From where exactly?" "From the house," Mom said, speaking for the first time. "We need you out. We've made other arrangements." I lived in the converted garage apartment behind their house. Had lived there for 6 years, ever since I'd moved back to help them after Dad's business collapsed. 6 years of paying their mortgage while they rebuilt. 6 years of being their financial safety net while sleeping in 400 square feet with a bathroom so small I had to shower with the door open. "Other arrangements," I repeated slowly, looking at each of them. Justin wouldn't meet my eyes. Rebecca examined her manicured nails. "What arrangements?" Nobody answered. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. I looked back down at the paperwork, reading more carefully this time. The address listed wasn't just the garage apartment. It was the entire property. The property I'd been paying for. Let me take you back 6 years. I was 27, newly promoted to senior accountant, finally feeling like my life was coming together. Then Dad called at 2 in the morning. "Baby girl, we're going to lose the house." His voice cracked in a way I'd never heard before. "The business is gone. Everything's gone. We need help." I drove down that same night. Mom was crying at the kitchen table, surrounded by foreclosure notices. They were 3 months behind on the mortgage, $12,000 monthly, and the bank was starting proceedings. "How did it get this bad?" I asked, trying to keep judgment out of my voice. "The economy," Dad said vaguely. "Bad investments. Clients not paying." He owned a small construction company that had been thriving for 20 years. Something didn't add up, but my parents looked so broken that I pushed my questions aside. "I can help," I heard myself say. Temporarily. Temporarily became 6 years. I moved into their garage apartment, which they quickly renovated using money I later realized came from my initial loan to them. I took over the mortgage payments completely, $12,000 every single month. Do the math. That's $144,000 a year. For 6 years. Over $860,000, not counting the property taxes and insurance I also covered. "Just until we get back on our feet," Mom kept saying. But Dad's business never recovered. He retired instead at 58. Justin dropped out of college his junior year and moved back home rent-free. Rebecca finished her degree in communications and also came home, also rent-free. And I kept paying. Kept saving them. I told myself I was being a good daughter. That family takes care of family. But standing there on my birthday holding that eviction notice, I finally saw the truth. I wasn't family. I was a resource they'd mined until they found something better. I sat down at that dining table without being invited. My legs felt weak, but I kept my voice steady. "I need you to explain this to me. Clearly." I placed the eviction notice on the table between us like evidence at a trial. "You're evicting me from property I've been paying for?" Dad shifted his weight. "You've been paying rent, Lauren. Let's not exaggerate. Rent." The word came out sharper than I intended. "I pay the mortgage. The full mortgage. $12,000 every month for 6 years. I have every bank transfer, every receipt." "You paid to live here," Mom interjected. "That's what rent is. You benefited from having a place to stay." The audacity of that statement hit me like a physical blow. 400 square feet for $12,000 a month. The apartment I'd lived in downtown before moving back cost $1,800 a month and had twice the space, a dishwasher and a gym. Why now? I asked. Why are you doing this now? That's when Rebecca finally spoke up, her voice carrying that particular smugness she'd perfected since high school. Because Justin is getting married. He and Melissa need a place to start their life together. A real place, not some garage apartment. The pieces started clicking together. You're giving them the main house? Silence. Justin at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. Mom and Dad are moving into the garage apartment, he mumbled. It's all been decided. It's been decided, I repeated. And where exactly am I supposed to go? More silence. Then Dad cleared his throat. You're 33 years old, Lauren. You have a good job. It's time you found your own place. The irony was suffocating. I'd had my own place. I'd given it up for them. I looked back down at the eviction notice, reading every word with my accountant's eye for detail. And that's when I saw it. The property was in a trust. The Mitchell's Family Trust, established 8 years ago before Dad's business collapsed. I'd never seen any trust documents. They'd never mentioned a trust existed. But there it was in black and white. The house, the property, everything held in a family trust with multiple beneficiaries. Who are the trustees? I asked quietly. Dad's jaw tightened. That's not your concern. But it was my concern. Because if this property was in a trust and I'd been paying the mortgage on trust property, the legal implications were significant. More than that, the moral implications were staggering. Am I a beneficiary of this trust? I pressed. The silence that followed told me everything. Justin coughed awkwardly. Rebecca found something fascinating on her phone. Mom and Dad exchanged a glance that I'd seen 1,000 times before. The one that meant they were hiding something. The trust is for family, Mom finally said. For your father and me and for passing assets to your brother and sister eventually. Not eventually. It was already happening. They were giving Justin the house. And me. I asked, though I already knew. What do I get? You've been independent since you graduated college, Dad said, as if that explained everything. Justin and Rebecca needed more support. You understand how it is. I understood perfectly. I understood that I'd been paying for my siblings' inheritance. That every dollar I'd sacrificed had gone toward building wealth for everyone in my family except me. I stood up, folding the eviction notice carefully and putting it back in the envelope. I need to think about this, I said calmly. May I keep this? Dad nodded, relief washing over his face. He thought I was going to roll over, accept this, maybe because a small scene, but ultimately comply. He thought I was still that little girl who always did what she was told. He had no idea what was coming. I didn't go home. I drove straight to my office, even though it was Saturday and my birthday. The building was empty, which was perfect. I needed silence and spreadsheets. For the next 8 hours, I reconstructed 6 years of financial transactions. Every mortgage payment I'd made. Every property tax payment. Every insurance premium. Every utility bill. The numbers were devastating. $864,000 in mortgage payments. $72,000 in property taxes. $18,000 in insurance. Thousands more in utilities and maintenance. I'd paid for a new roof 2 years ago. $28,000. I'd covered the HVAC replacement, $15,000. When the garage apartment flooded from a burst pipe, I'd paid the $11,000 repair bill. Total, over $1 million. I'd put over $1 million into property I didn't own, for family who was now evicting me. But here's what made it criminal, and I mean that word carefully. I pulled up the property records, public information available to anyone. The house was worth approximately $1.8 million now. When Dad's business collapsed, they'd owed $900,000 on the mortgage. According to my payments, the current mortgage balance should be around $300,000. But when I dug deeper into the records, I found something that made my blood run cold. The mortgage had been refinanced. Twice. Once 3 years ago, once 18 months ago. Both times they'd pulled equity out of the house, cashed out the equity I'd built with my payments. They'd taken $400,000 out of that house while I was paying the mortgage. $400,000 I knew nothing about. And I was an accountant. I should have known. I should have been watching. But I'd trusted them because they were my parents. That trust had cost me everything. I spent Sunday gathering more evidence. I called the bank on Monday morning using my power of attorney. Ironically, something Dad had given me when I started making the mortgage payments so I could handle issues if they traveled. The account representative confirmed what I'd suspected. Yes, ma'am, we show consistent payments from your account for the past 6 years. You're listed as an authorized payer on the account. An authorized payer. Not a co-owner. Not a beneficiary. Just someone allowed to give them money. And the refinancing transactions? I asked, keeping my voice professional. The first refinance was for $200,000 cash out. The second was for $200,000 also cash out. Both approved based on the strong payment history and equity position. My payment history. My equity. Their cash. Can you tell me what the funds were used for? There was a pause while she checked. The disbursement went to the primary account holders, checking account ending in 4723. We don't track usage beyond that. I knew that account number. It was Mom and Dad's personal account. The account I'd never had access to even when I was paying for everything. One more question, I said. What happens if the authorized payer stops making payments? Another pause. The mortgage would go into default. After 30 days, late fees would apply. After 90 days, foreclosure proceedings would begin. Given the current balance of $378,000, the owners would need to either resume payments or face losing the property. $378,000. They'd pulled out $400,000 in cash and the balance had actually gone up. They'd been making some payments, tiny minimum payments, while I covered the bulk. Stretching out the debt, maximizing the cash they could extract. It was financial manipulation at its finest. I thanked the representative and hung up. Then I opened my banking app and scheduled one more mortgage payment. $12,000, due in 5 days. But I added a note to myself. Final payment. Cancel recurring transfer. They wanted me out in 30 days. I give them 30 days all right. 30 days to figure out where they'd find $12,000 a month. Dad called on Wednesday. We need to talk about the move, he said, his tone suggesting this was a simple logistical discussion. Mom wants to know when you'll start packing. I'd been expecting this. Actually, I need to meet with everyone. All 4 of you. Can we do tonight? Tonight's not good. Justin has plans with Melissa. Of course he did. Tomorrow then, I said firmly. This is important. It concerns everyone's future. The emphasis on everyone must have worried him because he agreed. Thursday at 7 p.m., back at the house that I'd saved from foreclosure. I arrived with a leather portfolio and my laptop. Justin and Melissa were there. She was a tiny woman with an enormous diamond ring that caught the light. Rebecca sat beside her and they were clearly already friends, probably planning weddings and babies. Mom and Dad sat together on the couch, a united front. Thanks for making time, I started, keeping my tone pleasant and professional. I wanted to discuss the transition. We appreciate you being reasonable about this, Mom said quickly. We know it's sudden, but I've been paying the mortgage on this house for 6 years, I interrupted gently. That's $864,000. I have documentation of every payment. I opened my laptop and turned it around so they could see the spreadsheet. The room went quiet. Melissa leaned forward, squinting at the numbers. Wait, you've been paying $12,000 a month? For their house. For 6 years, I confirmed. Plus property taxes, insurance and major repairs. Over $1 million total. I let that sink in. During that time the property was refinanced twice, pulling out $400,000 in equity that I built with my payments. Money I never saw. Dad's face was reddening. That's our house, Lauren. We can refinance if we want. Absolutely, I agreed. It's your house. Your mortgage. Your responsibility. I paused for effect. So I'm sure you'll have no problem taking over the payments now that I'm leaving. The color drained from Dad's face. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the $12,000 monthly mortgage payment, I said calmly. The one you're asking me to stop making when you evict me. I'm simply agreeing to your terms. Justin sat forward. You can't just stop paying. You've been paying all this time. Because I lived here, I replied, using Mom's own logic against them. But according to your eviction notice, I won't be living here anymore. So why would I keep paying? The logic was airtight, and watching them realize it was almost satisfying enough to make up for 6 years of being used. This is ridiculous, Rebecca snapped. You're being vindictive. I turned to her slowly. I'm being vindictive? You're taking the house I paid for, and I'm vindictive for not continuing to pay for it. I pulled out another document. Let me ask you something, Rebecca. Where did the money come from for your grad school applications? The $4,000 prep course you took. Her face paled. How did you? I pay attention. I'm an accountant. It's literally my job. I looked at Justin. And your truck? The $50,000 pickup you bought 2 years ago. He shifted uncomfortably. I saved up. With what job? I asked pleasantly. You've been unemployed for 3 years. I turned back to Mom and Dad. Let me guess. The $400,000 from the refinances? That's where all this came from. Rebecca's grad school. Justin's truck. That 3-week Mediterranean cruise you took last year. The new furniture. Mom's jewelry. Mom's hand unconsciously went to the diamond pendant around her neck. A pendant I'd noticed appear 6 months ago. We deserved a few nice things, she said defensively. After everything we've been through. After everything you've been through, I repeated. While I was paying your mortgage from a 400-square-foot garage apartment. Melissa spoke up, her voice small. Justin, you told me your parents owned this house outright. The betrayal in her voice was delicious. Justin had been lying to his fiancée too. They do own it, he said quickly. There's just a small mortgage left. $378,000, I corrected. At $12,000 a month, that's 31.5 months of payments. Can you afford that? The question hung in the air like smoke. Nobody answered because everyone knew the answer was no. Dad stood up, trying to regain control. Now you listen here, Lauren. We're your parents. You don't get to threaten us. Threaten them? I'd been supporting them for 6 years, and asking to stop was a threat? But I didn't argue. Instead, I pulled out the final document from my portfolio. I had a lawyer review everything this week, I said quietly. Here's what he told me. Because I've been making payments on property I don't own, with no formal rental agreement in place, I have been making gifts, legally speaking, to the property owners. Gifts I can stop at any time. I placed the legal letter on the coffee table. He also said that if I were vindictive, which Rebecca accused me of being, I could potentially sue for unjust enrichment. Especially given the refinances that I was never informed about, where you extracted equity I'd built. The room was dead silent now. But I'm not going to do that. I'm simply going to stop making payments on property I don't live in. That's reasonable, right? You'll destroy us, Mom whispered. The house will go into foreclosure. I nodded slowly. Yes. Without my payments, you'll default in about 90 days. The bank will foreclose. You'll lose the house. I let that reality settle. Unless, of course, you can make the payments yourselves. Justin exploded. This is insane. You're going to make your own family homeless. No, I said firmly. You made this choice when you handed me that eviction notice. When you decided my 6 years of sacrifice meant nothing. When you planned to give my brother the house I saved while kicking me out to a garage apartment. I stood up, gathering my documents. I have one more payment scheduled for this month. After that, the mortgage is your responsibility. I'll be out in 30 days as requested. My voice caught slightly, the first crack in my composure. I hope the house was worth losing your daughter over. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and Justin, congratulations on your engagement. I hope Melissa knows what she's marrying into. Melissa's face was ashen. She was starting to understand the kind of family she was joining. I left them there, arguing among themselves, the foundation of their schemes crumbling like the house of cards it had always been. They called constantly over the next few days. Dad first, angry and demanding. "You can't do this to us," he shouted into the phone. I hung up. Then Mom, crying and manipulative. "How can you be so cruel? We raised you. We loved you." I hung up. Justin tried reasoning. "Think about Melissa. She's innocent in all this." I hung up. Rebecca sent texts, dozens of them. "You're tearing this family apart. Everyone's going to know what you did. You're going to regret this." I blocked her number. But blocking them didn't stop the extended family from getting involved. Lisa called me at work. "Your parents are devastated, Lauren. Can't you work something out? Did they tell you they've been taking over $1 million from me for 6 years?" I asked calmly. "Did they mention the eviction notice they gave me on my birthday? Or the $400,000 they pulled out in refinances while I was paying their mortgage?" Silence. Then, "Well, family is complicated." That phrase. Family is complicated. The universal excuse for abuse, manipulation, and theft. As if sharing DNA made it acceptable to betray someone who'd sacrificed everything for you. "You're right," I told Aunt Lisa. "Family is complicated. Which is why I'm simplifying mine." My cousin Jerome was different. He called not to lecture but to ask questions. He'd always been the smart one, the one who saw through the family's surface harmony to the dysfunction beneath. "Tell me everything," he said. So I did. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Lauren, I'm so sorry. You deserved better." Those 4 words, "you deserved better," broke something in me. I started crying for the first time since my birthday, sitting in my parked car outside my office. "I know," I managed. "But knowing doesn't make it hurt less." "No," Jerome agreed. "It doesn't. But it makes it right. What you're doing is right." That night I started packing. 30 days would go quickly. 2 weeks into my 30 days I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Lauren?" a woman's voice asked. "Who's asking?" I'd become suspicious of unknown callers. "My name is Patricia. I'm calling from County Social Services." My stomach dropped. What had my family done now? "I'm investigating a complaint filed regarding elder exploitation," Patricia continued. "Your name came up as someone who might have information." "Elder exploitation? I don't understand." "Your parents filed a complaint claiming you've been financially exploiting them. Taking money, making unauthorized charges, that sort of thing." The audacity literally took my breath away. After everything, they were accusing me of exploiting them? "I see," I said carefully. "What do you need from me?" Patricia asked if we could meet. I agreed immediately. When we met at a coffee shop the next day, I brought something my family hadn't counted on. Evidence. Every bank statement for 6 years. Every mortgage payment, clearly showing transfers from my account to theirs. Every receipt for property taxes, repairs, insurance. The legal letter from my attorney. The eviction notice they'd given me. I watched Patricia's expression change as she reviewed the documents. From professional skepticism to surprise to outrage. "Ms. Mitchell," she said finally, "it appears you're the victim here, not the perpetrator." "I know," I replied. "So why did they file a false report?" She sighed. "In my experience, they're trying to establish a paper trail. If they can claim you exploited them, they might argue you coerced them into accepting your payments. It muddies the waters legally." But it had backfired. Patricia's investigation would now focus on their behavior, not mine. She asked permission to keep copies of my documentation. I gave it gladly. As I left that meeting, I felt something shift. They'd tried to weaponize the system against me, and it had exposed them instead. Sometimes karma works quickly. But the universe wasn't done revealing secrets. That night, Jerome called again. "Lauren, I need to tell you something. I've been doing some digging into Uncle's business collapse. It wasn't bad investments or the economy." My hand tightened on the phone. What was it? Gambling. He'd been embezzling from his own company to cover gambling debts. That's why the business failed. The truth about Dad's gambling hit me harder than the eviction notice. Everything I'd believed, that they were victims of circumstance, that they'd fallen on hard times through no fault of their own, was a lie. Dad had destroyed his own business, had stolen from his employees, had let me bail him out of consequences he'd created through addiction and recklessness. I confronted them with Jerome's information. We met at a diner, neutral territory. I refused to go back to that house. I know about the gambling, I said without preamble. Dad's face went gray. Mom looked away. It's in the past, Dad muttered. I got help. When? I demanded. When did you get help? No answer. Because he hadn't. He just found a new source of money, me, and hid the problem better. Did any of the refinance money go to gambling debts? I pressed. Mom's expression told me everything. They'd taken $400,000 of equity I'd built and fed it into slot machines or card tables or sports books. How much is left? I asked. Of the 400,000? Silence. Which meant it was gone. All gone. You have a problem, I said to Dad. A serious addiction. And instead of getting treatment, you let me fund it for 6 years. I stood to leave. Wait, Mom grabbed my arm. We'll make this right. We'll figure something out with the house. Just don't leave like this. I looked at her hand on my arm, then into her eyes. You handed me an eviction notice on my birthday. You already made me leave. This is just the conversation we should have had then. I pulled away gently. I loved you. Both of you. I would have done anything for this family. But you saw that love as weakness to exploit, not strength to cherish. My voice finally broke. That's what hurts most. Not the money. The betrayal. I left them sitting there. 3 days later, I moved out of the garage apartment. My new place was smaller, but it was mine. All mine. No family drama, no manipulation, no eviction notices. The final mortgage payment cleared. After that, silence from the bank. They were on their own now. The house went into foreclosure exactly 91 days after my last payment. I know because Justin called me begging. Please, Lauren. Melissa's pregnant. We need somewhere to live. Melissa left him 2 weeks after my revelation. Apparently, learning your fiancé was planning to live in a house his sister paid for while lying about everything was a deal breaker. Smart woman. I'm sorry you're going through this, I told Justin honestly. But I can't help anymore. He hung up cursing me. Rebecca sent a final message. I hope you're happy now that you've destroyed everything. But I wasn't happy. I was free. There's a difference. The house sold at auction for $1.6 million. After the mortgage and fees, Mom and Dad walked away with just over $1 million. More money than most people see in a lifetime. I heard through Jerome they bought a small condo and that Dad was finally in treatment for gambling addiction. Too little too late, but maybe better than nothing. As for me, I got therapy. Real therapy where I learned words like financial abuse and parentification and enmeshment. I learned that loving people who hurt you doesn't make you weak, but staying does. I invested the money I wasn't spending on their mortgage. I traveled. I dated. I lived. Some people say I should have handled it differently, that family deserves endless chances. But those people weren't handed an eviction notice on their birthday after sacrificing $1 million in 6 years of their life. The moral of this story isn't that you should abandon your family. It's that real family doesn't abandon you first. I haven't spoken to my parents in 6 months. Maybe I never will. Sometimes I cry about it, grieving the family I thought I had. But mostly, I sleep soundly in my apartment that nobody can evict me from, paying bills for a life that's actually mine. And that peace is worth more than any inheritance they'll never leave me. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. If you're in a similar situation, being used, being taken advantage of, being told family is everything, while being treated like nothing, please know this. You are worth more than what you can provide. Your value isn't in your bank account or your willingness to sacrifice yourself. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe. Share your own experiences in the comments. You're not alone. And remember, setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's survival. The last time I drove past that house, new people were moving in. A young family with 2 kids and a dog. I hope they fill it with the love it never had while I was there. I hope they make it a real home. As for me, I'm already home. Finally,